5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Beyond Ordinary News Radio presents Planet X, The Return. This is a two-part show consisting of dozens of photos and two special guest interviews. First up will be Ms. Dawn Hall, a Planet X researcher and infrared photographer who lives in the state of Washington, United States of America. It is important to note that during my interview with Hall, my laptop electronics were targeted, my recording was scrambled, and my cell phone was wiped out. Approximately 50% of the interview was recovered and restored. The second part of the show will be with an anonymous guest who goes by the name of Catfish of Galveston, Texas. He trained in navigating while he served in the United States Armed Forces. He studied magnetic forces and fields, and he also worked as an investigator for United States Senator Jim Davis of North Carolina. I would personally like to thank my guests tonight for coming forward, despite the harassment they have endured for being part of the Planet X disclosure process. They did this in order to assist in the global preparation for the return of the Planet X system. This is your host, Denise Chavez. You can find my work on www.darkskywatcher.com and on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Denise.Chavez333.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then when I got in and developed it, I started editing them. I have a whole bunch more. The fleet is on its way. That's what it looks like to me.
Yes. A couple of us did an analysis of the photos that you submitted to me this morning of the sun, and it does look like ships coming out of the sun. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And they were coming in profusion. My shutter button, I need to get a better camera so I can take, successive pictures more quickly. I have to wait for my camera. I push the button, but it doesn't take it the second I see what I see, and it can be very frustrating. But yes, they were everywhere. I was confused. It looked like we had a cottonwood, infestation of the seeds blowing through the air.
That's what it looked like, didn't it?
Yeah, there were so many, but it was only in that area around the sun. When I turned my camera and pointed it, in other directions to see if maybe there was cottonwood seed flying. No, it was crap.
Well, before it gets too late, I'd like to welcome you onto my show.
Thank you very much.
I've been wanting to talk with you about this for quite a while now.
Okay.
When was it that you were taking photos of what appears to be UFOs coming out of the sun? Was that today?
Yes, this morning. My usual routine, I clean my camera and head out the door just a few minutes before 8 o'clock. If I get into the middle of the street, I have a clear shot of the sun coming up over there. And as I began to shoot, I was not sure what I was seeing because there were so many what looked like just white specks. I thought maybe we had cottonwood seed that was flying in the air. I tested my camera in other directions, and no, there is nothing else flying in the air. All of it was localized around the sun.
Okay, now upon enlarging one of your photos, it does appear to be fleets of the same type of UFO or craft, if you will.
Yes, that's what it looked like to me, Denise.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, oh my gosh.
Did I tell you about my dream last night?
You did, and that's amazing, and thank you. Please repeat it again now.
Okay, well, basically I woke up early this morning so as to write it down. I definitely remember a man's voice, and he said, "Cast down unto earth to be at war." So then I woke up and I saw your post with all the UFOs coming out of the sun, so there was some sort of weird correlation there.
Wow.
And it was a man's voice.
I got goosebumps, girl.
And then I opened up my messages to find an email from a friend who was showing me a video of a guy who was explaining a dream that he had of meteorites coming from the sun. And then I see your photos and I think, well, this is all kind of bizarre.
It's confirmation.
For me, I think it is.
I agree. It is for me.
Now let's talk about the object you've been photographing under the sun since 2012. There's actually a whole system that I've seen coming from your photos. Can you talk about that, please?
I have been photographing this one object that's right below the sun. It's the green orb.
Yes.
And it's been the focus of my attention for months. I have videos of it, a zillion pictures. But what I noticed the other day is, as you noticed in my pictures, is if I shoot that in infrared, below it comes that orb that looks very similar to the Vatican sphere. But below that, there's always this object, and it's in a blue bubble, but as I turn my camera to photograph it, it changes shapes, it morphs, and I think that is a giant mothership. I'm sorry, but I can't come to any other conclusion about that odd object. It's always, I can locate it by following the green orb and going down. And I think that's a mothership.
Okay, so now this green object that you capture, it sometimes glows orange, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and it glows yellow, and it has this fluorescence to it. I'm not sure. I believe that it's one of the moons of X. And if you see in some of my pictures, it's got that moon and then a smaller green moon that'll be below it that I've caught. And I think those are the two moons. I know there's lots of moons, but those are the two that have been named and are more visible than the others around X. That's my belief.
Okay, back in November I had a friend I was talking with who actually did some work for the Vatican and made some friends out there, and he ended up taking a few trips to a couple of telescopes. One was in Arizona called Lucifer, and the other one was basically at the South Pole. Now, he told me that X glows orange and sometimes red, and that the guys at the South Pole get super excited whenever they see it glowing red.
Yes. I hate to say it, but that's very true. But I have to go by my gut and what I've learned about X and how I came to determine that that was the object of my interest. And I did that by listening to what they said. X is hard to see. You don't just take your cell phone camera and point it at the sky and get a picture of planet X. It's infrared. Even the scientists have had trouble keeping track of it and finding it.
Dawn, can you tell us how you go about taking these photos?
I mostly use my Nikon camera. I have lens that is a fader lens, and it's a neutral density, and it goes up to 2,000. Normally, neutral density lenses go anywhere from 4 to 8 for normal use. So with mine going up to 2,000, I'm able to filter a lot of the noise out of the pictures because I'm shooting at 30 magnification, and then I use sometimes the infrared lens over that. But pretty much with this neutral density lens, I can zero in and I can see things that you can't see normally. I can see through the clouds with it. I also have, I have another infrared camera that the Ghostbusters use. That was the first one I bought. It's online. It's kind of funny, but excuse me, I listened to them talk about X, and they were saying that it's infrared and, you know, the difficulty in spotting it. So that was my next move, was to get an infrared and start learning how to take an infrared picture and then how to process it so that what's there is visible. Because that's a whole other process. I think that I'm showing very clear images of the sun and the objects around it. I can't always give a definitive answer. I can't say, oh, this is such and such. I wish I could. I wish I could put those pictures up and say, wow, look at this. This is what's going on. I have to just say, help me out here, people. Take a look at this, and what do you think?
Well, I have seen tons of videos and photos, and I have to say that your photos are probably the best that I have ever seen.
Thank you. And the other day, what I did was I took my Fuji fine pics that I hardly ever use, and I used a telephoto lens with it, and then put an infrared filter on that. And I got the most amazing pictures. I believe it was day before yesterday. I mean, you could see what looked to me like a red ring oval that's traveling like underneath the sun. And it's traveling so fast that it's just like this tunnel of red dust. And if you look closely, you can see that red and green orb looks like it's shooting around through it. You can even see like motion marks. You've got to remember, all of this stuff is not standing still for my photos. You know, it's in motion. Yeah, I'm trying to catch it, and when I am catching it, it is in motion, and that shows.
Well, so how long have you been taking photos of this system?
2 years. It was in October of 2011, I guess, that I saw something in the east sky. I couldn't make sense of it, and I asked, and people said it was Jupiter, and I didn't think so. So I Googled it, and I saw that almost 1 million other people in Western Washington had asked the same question. What is that object in the east? And nobody had an answer. So I was excited about, what's this big mystery? Let's solve it. The next day, I was telling my friend about it, and we went back to Google to see if there was any, new developments, and it was gone. It was as if no one had ever asked that question and that there had never been any inquiries. So that kind of caught my attention. And then also the fact that no one was describing what I was seeing confused me even more. Because I know what Jupiter looks like.
Right.
So the whole thing was very baffling.
A couple of days ago, you said something really interesting to me. You said that you had been taking photos of the sun, and at that time, the Planet X system, if you will, looked like a bunch of little specks around the sun, as opposed to what we see now.
Yes. I posted pictures last night on my page that I took in March 9th, and you should see the difference from even just from March till, today or yesterday. I just want to keep going forward and doing my work and sharing it with people. And I really want to thank everybody who's made such positive remarks and offered so much information along the way. In the last few days, it's just been remarkable because I was really ready to quit. And they had the trolls and shills on me. They've had all kinds of ways to try and control me and make me stop. And
You have to move forward and not let anyone intimidate you, Dawn.
I can't stop, Denise. I really feel that this is my job, and you're doing the reporting. You're God's reporter. I'm God's photographer then.
Fantastic. Love it. So from 2 years ago to now, how much closer do you think these planets have come?
Oh my gosh. I mean, in the beginning, I was taking pictures of flares and clouds. Now I'm zoomed in and I can see how much longer. I can't give you a timeline. I can just say that the approach is near. It's very near. I thought a year ago I was listening to Zeta talk and going by what they said. So I thought the whole game was going to be up last year in August. So I'm amazed here we are a year later. But I also want to say, I think that we're getting some kind of help from beyond, because I know there's a lot of turmoil. I know the Earth is going through a lot of changes. I understand all of that, but we are not getting smacked with meteors and other things. And from what I see, it looks to me always like, wow, how are we missing all this stuff, or how is all this stuff missing us? So I feel hopeful. I feel hopeful when dates come and go and people have predicted things and they don't happen. I always smile. I always say, thank you, God. That's absolutely awesome. Here we go. So while things are very close and it's imminent, and it does seem that there's no way to avoid a pole shift. I don't know what that'll entail. I've read about it, but until we go through it, how can we ever know? So I think that there are Earth changes that are imminent, and I think also that it is very close, and it sounds like it might be making its approach up from the south through the Atlantic Rift, from the earthquakes and all the stuff that's going on right now.
So with regard to your camera equipment, you say you're using infrared lenses now?
Infrared and neutral density, polarizing neutral density lenses. And I have infrared cameras that shoot just strictly infrared, but if I want to get in tight and close, I use one of my other cameras. I have one camera that goes up to a 60 power magnification, but I find that that's too close. If I hang back at about 30, 35, I am able to get a lot of detail into the picture.
And you're basically shooting right through the chemtrail sky, aren't you?
Oh boy. You know, they put so much stuff in there that if you hit autocorrect, what you get is like, it just turns into a big white cloud over the picture. Very interesting to watch, because they put something in there that, I think it's the aluminum that is real reflective.
Yes.
And, yeah. So, that can be tricky too.
Can you tell us what would be the best time to capture these objects?
For me, it's just around 8 o'clock in the morning when the sun is visible up over the hill there. The reason it's best then is you get kind of all of the planets. It's in a tighter formation, you know, as they're kind of coming up before they spread out. And then I like to take pictures around 11 or noon, and then in the afternoon, anywhere from 2 to 4, I can catch some good stuff. My sunset's pretty much blocked. I do go out and take the sunset pictures, but I haven't been picking up a lot. They keep it really heavily sprayed in our west, and that's where the sun is going down. I mean, the clouds are so thick that if you take a picture of them, it just looks like a wall with fire edges. It's very weird looking.
Can you give us your location, please?
Yes, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. I'm in the state of Washington. And I'm shooting mainly in the southwest sky. You know, people want to take their cameras, go outside, point it at the sky, and get a picture and say, oh, look, there it is. You can't do that. I'm sorry. I wish it was that easy. If it was that easy, then we'd all know the truth. These things are not visible in this light spectrum that our eyes see. We need special equipment to be able to see these things. It's upon us, Denise. It's upon us. It's very, I mean, the sun is 93 million miles away. And these objects are in front of it. So they're not somewhere else. They're here, and it's real. And you can see the elliptical orbit in my pictures of X. It's not years away like some people are talking. I thought it would be gone by the end of July. That had been my information, and I was really surprised when it hadn't moved out of our system, and it doesn't, it didn't look like it's going to be, here it is the end of August, and it's still hanging around. So I don't think anybody has a timetable for it.
How many main objects have you seen in the sky recently?
Okay, the main objects would be, of course, the little green orb, and the other little moon, the sun, what's behind the sun, the big pink thing behind the sun. Then there's another, like, yellow sun behind the sun. There's a big blue. There's the striped one. There's the maroon one. There's green, red. There's countless moons and other small little orbs. Then I've seen the black one.
You've named 10 so far.
That shows up occasionally and more recently, and only when I'm shooting in infrared and shooting, at a long distance. So that's an interesting thing to me too. So everybody else in the picture, all the other players can't name them.
All right, well, my time is up, and I'd like to thank you for being on my show.
Thank you.
Welcome, Catfish.
It's a pleasure being here and finally meeting you.
Oh, pleasure meeting you too. You were talking about your training.
Yeah, most of my knowledge about the sky comes from my training in the Navy. I was taught how to navigate by using the moon and the stars. And in 2010, I noticed the moon was distinctly upside down. Tycho crater belongs at about 5:30 on the face as if it was a clock, and I saw up at about 12:30. And started watching it very closely every night and realized it was spinning a full 180 here, and kind of got me online. I wanted to find out why, because I knew what that meant. It's not the moon spinning, we're spinning, or our axis has changed and the moon is actually at one of the poles at this point, because that's the only way you can get the phase shadow to move. If you spun a ball beside the lamp, you're never going to get that shadow to move, and that's in effect what we have with the moon. It is its own shadow on its face, so it's not the moon spinning, so to speak. It's got to be the observer, Earth.
Interesting. Okay. So then what did you do?
Well, I started looking for reports. I went into Hubble data for about 1.5 years and studied binary systems that they had found thousands of. Apparently, according to the data, about 80% of known solar systems in the galaxy are binary or trinary or more. And every one of them have an odd egg-shaped style solar system with the outer planets being pulled by the other sun. And 20% have one star. And in every one of those one-star systems, they have perfect alignment and circular orbit. So I realized right there we had a fingerprint that told me most likely we have a binary star. I wondered if it was a black hole, a star. At one point I was wondering if it was like that CERN had released a black hole or something. I didn't know. There were a lot of theories going around. And then somebody linked me up with these all-sky cameras, and I had been watching a distinct pattern in these quakes every day, starting out sometime around Christmas last year. And it just, yes. And it keeps getting stronger and stronger. And then somebody gave me that link to the all-sky, and I deduced where the anomaly should be. I locked it in. The night Northern California had that 7.0 quake, February maybe. There was quite a few of them that night. I knew where where the anomaly would be. I locked onto it and found it in my first picture. Since then, I've taken hundreds of pictures of it. And then I realized...
Okay, when you say you've taken hundreds of pictures of it, what is it?
It's a bright blue ultraviolet sun.
Interesting, okay.
It sheds a yellow and a red light. It doesn't really shed light like our sun does. It's an ultraviolet light. And a lot of people might not recognize it when they're looking at the sky because it merely just pretty much changes the color of the clouds. It doesn't really brighten the sky too much, although it can dim out the stars. And when I found it in Alaska, I realized I was looking at a very special camera that takes MRIs of the sky. And I started capturing the magnet picture instead of the visual spectrum, because visual spectrum can have any argument from it's a random light to it's a lens flare.
Okay.
Well, the MRI is not like that. It doesn't work on a visual spectrum. It works in the magnetic spectrum. And I started picking up a very distinct magnetosphere of this thing rising at midnight after the sun had went down. So I took a picture of it. And then I took a picture of the one in the daytime of our sun and noticed that it was a diamond shaped. It looked compressed. And it has multiple orbs in it. So they were small, very small orbs, and I kept taking pictures and kept taking pictures, and then here in July I took another magnetic spectrum of our sun and noticed that the 5 different orbs now are at least as big as the sun, if not bigger, inside the orb of the magnetic, telling me that whatever that is coming closer. And in my opinion, that is a red star and planets that are in front of our sun. Being close to the similar fiery texture of our sun, it's hard to discern between it and the other inside the disk of light. The blue sun is easy to see. There's supposed to be nothing but the moon lighting the sky at night.
Right.
And all week, this week especially, there has been no moon at night. And I've been taking pictures of every place on this planet with distinct light at night that looks like moonlight on the horizon, or maybe the sun is rising on the horizon, and all the clouds are fiery red and orange. And I follow the earthquake maps to the point that now, even today, I just documented a few hours ago where I believed the next quakes would happen within 3 different regions in number and order and time. And 3-4 hours later, there we are, each and every single region shook in exactly the same order and time I laid down it would.
Yes, I've been watching your posts on Facebook, and I do notice that you're pretty accurate there with your predictions.
Well, it's no longer a guesswork. It's something I'm convinced that I've found, and it really has physical repercussions on the planet. And you can read that in the magnet and the way it actually makes the Earth quake. If you look at a magnetic map of the Earth, it actually looks almost like a mace ball with little spikes kicking out here and there where the magnetic pull is stronger from our planet. And in my opinion, those spikes are exactly what the sun is grabbing a hold of. The one that's actually a little bit closer to us than our sun, the blue ultraviolet sun, is grabbing a hold of those magnetic spikes and causing these quakes as it tips the Earth and makes it spin.
Okay, now what do you see happening first? I mean, is this going to be...
Well, that is all dependent on how close it gets. And from what I'm seeing, it's probably going to get pretty close. Like I referred to our sun and its magnet with the big orbs in it, there's definitely objects coming this way closer to us. And in my opinion, one of them is a red sun. And this blue sun does an orbital dance around the red sun, and the red sun does an orbital dance around the blue sun as binaries go. And unfortunately, at this point, I see our planet directly in the path of both suns.
Wow. So are you saying that something's going to actually hit the planet Earth if it gets close enough?
It could, but I certainly hope not.
I hope not too. My God.
It's happened numerous times in the past.
What has?
This passing. We're obviously in a cyclical cycle. This doesn't just happen by random chance. We're in a binary trinary system, and our two sister suns are here. They have not been here, from what I can tell, for over 3,000 years.
Okay.
And the Bible warns of it very clearly, that it will happen again. And it will, as they describe, be in the day of Noah, with the earth rocking like a drunkard. Well, that's exactly what's going on right now, and that, in my opinion, is something man is incapable of doing.
Okay, now are you familiar with Dawn Hall's photographs?
No.
Okay. She, I'm actually going to go ahead and put her...
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, I do know Dawn Hall.
Yes, okay, well, she has got some incredible photos of the entire system, and she's got, wow, there are at least 10 objects, is what she says.
Yes.
And she's been taking photographs of these things for, well, since 2012. Now, she says that back in 2012, when she was taking pictures of these things, they were like little specks around the sun. Now they're so close that she can only get like partial picture of just one of them. Like they're just that close. She does say that these things are weeks away, whatever that means. I don't know what that may mean. Why can't we see them?
Like I said, the blue one you can actually see, but it's coming in from above the planet.
Okay.
It seems to just shine its yellow-red light all over the planet. But the actual orb itself is visible from the northern hemisphere in the northern latitudes. I've captured it in Hong Kong, Belgium, and Alaska, Moscow, frequently.
You're using sky cams, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Well, yeah, the all-sky cams are cameras, basically web cameras at observatories established, some of them for 1,000 years in Europe. I've looked at a lot of the history of some of the cameras, all the way to like Alaska weather system cameras, which just, like I said, they read the magnetic view also. So it can be anything from a weather camera to an observatory. I was a little skeptical at first because some of them looked a little odd. You couldn't really tell if it was a city glowing at night. But as the months have progressed and me monitoring these cameras, every one of these cameras look differently than it did months ago, and they're much, much brighter. I can definitely tell that some of the lights are not cities because they were never there before, and they do move. And cities don't move on the landscape. These cameras don't move. They're based, they're directional based, and all you know, they're just. I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, you're getting camera anomalies. Well, I'm looking in my own sky and seeing the same thing. I'm asking people in those regions, what do your skies look like? And I'm getting confirmation that what I'm seeing in these cameras is what people are seeing in their own sky.
Okay.
It's just, it's happening after midnight.
Interesting.
Most people are asleep by then.
Right. Now, how big would you say this ultraviolet sun is?
The magnetosphere look of it looks about twice the size of our sun.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, that's just the magnet. That's not necessarily the bulk of the actual physical sun, so I really can't tell you that. I don't have a satellite or any kind of... I've seen it beside our moon. It's huge compared to the moon.
Really?
I don't know where it is in far as distance from the planet, and that is a major factor in figuring the size of the thing. But yeah, the one very clear moonless night I have of it and the moon next to it, the moon turns brilliant blue, and it's twice as big as the moon. Also the one picture that I have, it has another planet in the picture too, so it's a pretty crazy picture.
Can I show that on my show?
Yeah, absolutely. You can show all of my pictures if you would like. One of the first ones that caught my attention was a picture. Like I said, I was following this red sun, and this is before I had figured out some of the cameras were magnetic spectrum. I was following it around the globe, trying to get pictures of it, and I got real lucky. In Madrid, I captured a blue planet, and it had a big black moon beside it. And I went and looked for a blue planet with black moon, and we don't have one. The only thing I found online was a picture of the Death Star.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Well, that's not what I'm looking at.
Okay, now let me ask, where are you at right now?
Me, I'm in Galveston Island, Texas.
Okay, and then you're doing all of your research from your computer and online, and you're going onto these cameras. So when you say you're going to Madrid, you're actually in Texas.
Yes.
Looking. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And your focus is on the ultraviolet sun, yes?
Yes.
Okay, now, so you're saying this ultraviolet sun is about 2 times, at least for what you can see, the size of the moon?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I can't wait to see that photo.
Yeah, I'll post it for you.
Okay, all right. Wow. So what else do you see coming?
I imagine the quakes are going to get worse, and they steadily have since I've been saying that. I mean, we've had how many 7-point quakes this last 2 weeks?
Right.
They changed the scale at Fukushima. These quakes that are happening are equivalent to the one in Fukushima, and I find it kind of funny nobody's like talking about it.
Yeah, they're downgrading these quakes, right?
Yeah.
They're downgrading the actual magnitude of the quake.
The magnitudes, and even the ones that come up as 7s. That's the old 9 on the old scale.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a Fukushima quake. That's the equivalent of it, and that's all they could talk about for the longest time after that happened. But I don't know if it was because of the wave or the magnitude, but they kept talking about it. Well, we've been having those kind of quakes frequently now.
Right. So I was up 2 nights ago, and I was doing my research in the middle of the night, and I could feel something. I could feel the earth tremor. Something's going on in the middle of the night.
Well, it's because we have another magnet on the night side of the planet pulling on us. It's very much akin to something I used to play with as a kid. I didn't have a computer. I had 2 pieces of string and a button. And you put the string in the button twice into 2 different holes, and you just give it a yank, and it'll start spinning.
Okay.
And you yank it really hard, the button in the middle just goes boing and starts to bounce and vibrate.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty much what the best analogy I could give for 2 suns pulling on a planet. And that's pretty much what our planet is going through. And at some point, I do expect to feel the bounce planet-wide.
So that's a really good analogy. Would the suns be one on each side?
Yes. Well, we have one on the night side that, that's the opposite side of the planet than our day side. Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I've pictured that one on the night side easily because it's not really in the visual spectrum. It causes strange things to happen. If you know what you're looking for, you can see it in the clouds. I can see it. I live 3 blocks from the Gulf of Mexico out here, and I look out off to the northwest, and there it is, this big red-looking glow to the sky. All the clouds are orange around me and everything, and there's no city lights out there in the Gulf. Yeah, I imagine that's probably what's going on with the weather, the sinkholes, the quakes, all of the above.
The sinkholes and the big cracks on the planet, like, for example, the one in Mexico that just happened in the middle of August.
Yeah,
Do you think that is because of the magnetics, or what's going on there?
Well, I think as a direct result, yes. It's pulling at the core, and the core is heating up and changing the mantle, and the mantle is not liking what's going on and kind of opening up.
Okay. So did you work for the government at one time and you overheard some sort of conversation?
Well, actually, I worked for Senator Jim Davis of North Carolina, and I presented him with my findings of the lunar rotation. And I was stopped halfway through my presentation by his sister, Kay Davis,
okay,
and informed that they are fully aware of the extra suns rolling into this solar system, and they're basically not doing anything about it. They're putting out preparedness commercials all over the place. If you even notice, Geico's in on it, the preparedness commercials and stuff. And I got angry and told them that they have made prepper a dirty word, and what do they think they're going to accomplish? They need to start putting up tent cities up high and getting people out of Charlotte and, the low-lying areas. Mm-hmm. Because they fully told me that they expect 3/4 of the population to die off before the end of this year.
Before the end of 2014?
Yes, I find that extremely disturbing that our politicians would just allow this to happen and try to hide what's going on this planet.
Now, what year did they tell you this in?
They told me that, actually, in January.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Oh, my. So, did they actually use the terms extra suns?
Yes, she actually designated it as G1.9. It's a red dwarf that she was talking about. I hadn't discovered the blue one yet, so it wasn't mentioned.
Okay. I don't even know what to say to that. Anything else that they said that we should know?
Well, I reminded her that she lived in the Bible Belt, and the people find out that she knew she would be hung from the nearest post, and she said she would be secure in her bunker first.
Really?
Yeah, and I kind of left their service in a huff, so that was the last words that I spoke with them. Now, I sent out emails to each and every congressman and senator thereafter, and that caused a little bit of a hubbub. Davis.
Also.
Yeah, because apparently not all of them knew.
Oh, okay.
And some of them came to me angry Davis came to me angry because I was dropping his name. The actual state Capitol Police chief gave me a call talking about how Davis was trying to actually have me arrested for harassment, and he said that the only thing he could do is tell me not to contact him anymore. I said, well, I'm not worried about that. I don't plan on contacting him. I was just letting his constituents and all his fellow legislators know what I was told by him and his sister. And the guy asked me if I could send him a copy. I said, well, didn't they give you one? He said, yes, they did, but they took it back. So
a copy of your report?
Yes. So I sent him a copy personally. And that was the last I heard from anybody in the Capitol.
Now, how long is this report?
It wasn't very long. I was just documenting 4 years of lunar history and correlating with the star motion, which it's kind of technical. I don't know how many people would understand, but it does show up in the star motions easily every night. As we live on a ball, I'll just go through it real quickly.
Oh, thank you.
We spin at night, and when we look up, one side of our sky is moving east to west, and that would be our southern, what I call the star field. Now, the northern star field is, you turn around while you're watching the moon, and you turn around to 180, that sky should very well move from east to west.
Okay.
As it's the total opposing side of the ball. Well, Orion in the southern field, he's moving pretty normal. But when you start looking at the Big Dipper, which is normally rotates around Polaris, it should be moving from west to east. But as the sun goes down, you'll see it in the east. And as the sun comes up, you'll see it in the west. It's moving simultaneously with the southern field, therefore putting our spin completely out 100 and some degrees out of whack from where it should be. It should disappear over the eastern rim as I'm watching it nightly, but it goes completely backwards into the western sky.
Okay.
So that basically puts both star fields moving simultaneously. And if you watch the star motions and line up with the red glow on the horizon that I see every night, those stars are running directly away from that, which means that we're tilting directly towards it every night. That is the perturber.
Interesting. Okay.
It began showing up in August of 2013. And that's what prompted me to actually get a hold of Davis and start presenting my findings, because I had correlated, even without seeing the body itself, that this pink red light is what's causing our moon and our stars to act funny, because I stood there and documented that, oh my God, these are running in a straight line away from this light. And when the light first started showing up, it was between 3 and 5 a.m. Now, I'm a full custody dad of a little boy. I raise him all day long, and when he goes to sleep, I'd work all night.
Okay.
And I was up, so I saw all these things going on. And when it first showed up, for almost 2 weeks, I swear I thought it was like somebody had built a parking lot out in the middle of nowhere in the Smoky Mountains with pink lights, because I didn't want to even think what it really is. And I was driving around in the daytime trying to find the new factory or whatever had gone up on the other side of the mountain. Mm-hmm. And there was just nothing. And then one night it came out so bright, those Easter cards, it looks like God rays coming down from the clouds. Well, yes. It looked like that coming up from the horizon and over my mountain and just splitting through the trees. I was like, oh my God. So I woke up my son's grandmother on his mother's side, who's a pretty wealthy dentist. I didn't want to be making her think I'm crazy. She could take my son from me if I was.
Mhm.
So I called her up at 3 o'clock in the morning talking about, Pat, can you go outside and look? She lives in Philadelphia, about 800 miles from where I was at the time. And she said it was raining really bad. She didn't want to. And I begged her to go out just on the front porch and tell me her sky wasn't pink. And she walked out, and I didn't hear from her for about 15 or 20 minutes. When she came back, she was babbling about, is it a sun or is it a star? Is it a sun or is it a star? I thought it was a spotlight. She walked around apparently she walked around the neighborhood trying to figure out which one of her neighbors had hung the pink spotlight in the sky.
Wow. Okay.
She saw more of it than I did that night, and it scared her.
What's the approximate date?
That was around August 3rd to 5th. I believe it was the 14th. I had my neighbors out there watching with me. Because at one point my compass had turned around backwards in August, there in the early beginning of August, and I kind of freaked out.
2013?
Yes.
Okay.
And I kind of freaked out, running outside yelling, give me a compass, I think mine's broken. And my neighbor come up with his GPS, and it was turned around backwards. Now, it corrected itself within 20 minutes.
Wow.
But his GPS on his phone was pointing the exact same direction. He couldn't figure it out. He's like, oh, wow. My compass still hasn't turned back. So,
Goodness. Okay.
I got on Facebook and started asking, and I got responses worldwide. Yeah, my compass isn't pointing north anymore. My compass is pointing east. Mine's pointing south. It's just everybody started having the same problem around the same time. And then a few days later, bam, there started that really big glow in my sky. I was like, uh-oh.
Wow.
I think I found out why we're tipping and everything, and it's not a black hole. That has to be a sun. And I imagined it was a red dwarf, which it turns out that's what Davis is saying it is, red dwarf G1.9. They actually had a designation for it.
Okay. Now, I know you can speak with all certainty with regard to certain objects, like with regard to the ultraviolet sun. What else can you tell me that you know with complete certainty that is in our solar system right now?
The red sun and other planets directly in between us and our sun.
Okay. How many other planets would you say?
Altogether, I would have to agree with Dawn. There's about 10. I'm not sure which one goes with which sun.
And you've seen them?
Yes, I have pictures of them.
Okay, and you're going to submit those so that I can put them on the show?
Yeah, they're all on my page.
So is there anything else you wanted to say? Well, especially with regard to the near future. We're in August, late August 2014 now. Or what do you feel that is going to happen here?
The first thing we're going to notice is the increasing price of food. This summer, the sun was rising almost due north globally, and apparently they had extreme troubles with crops around the world. Coffee was molding on the trees. Blight was striking the wheat, and they were actually harvesting in July. I would say, most important, get yourself some food stock and some water.
Okay.
That alone is good on a good day. You know, you can't have enough of either of that, but I think we're going to need it soon. I don't know. I just fully expect the quakes to get worse. I expect the weather to get crazier.
Okay.
And eventually, like I said, we will be that button between the two suns bouncing. It might get so bad that humans may actually become planetary debris, so to speak. Yeah, I just hope I'm wrong, Denise.
You know, I have been really perplexed over this whole thing after I started to see Dawn's latest pictures. Over the last few days, I've been really worried. I've spent a lot of time alone thinking. I don't even know what to think, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know if any of us do. No, there seem to be an awful lot of accounts of this type of thing happening in the ancient scripts, in the stone. Not much of it was good. But we are 7 billion people, and this has happened before. So I don't expect it to be exactly the end of the world.
Okay.
I hope I'm right about that one.
Yes, I hope so too. Because I keep thinking about that Vatican sphere. It keeps coming into my mind. And that thing, if you look at it, it looks like a planet inside of a planet. And I really hope that it doesn't mean that something's going to crash into Earth.
I don't know. A couple of things I think about that Vatican thing. It also looks like a dissected virus.
Okay. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Well, Catfish, I really appreciate you coming on my show.
Absolutely.